have Alan Brochstein on the line?
We do.
Excellent.
Hey,
Alan, we're
how's it
looking
going?
for action. We're looking for action, and hopefully in the pot stocks, we're going to get some action here today. How are you?
I'm good. I just tuned in and I heard your disappointment. I get it. We have lots of action, but it's
Excellent.
hasn't been as good as we like it to be all the time. But we have lots of action and there's a lot going on.
What
Um,
about this GW Pharma here today, popping $4.82 here right now? You got some feelings on this one?
It's been struggling with 70. I think this thing's just buying time. I know we talked about it. What was that, 3 weeks ago when I was on? This is my first time to be on Friday. Not usually I'm on a Monday. You're going to get a much better mood. Mondays are tough. This is summer Friday, but So on GW Pharma, the news came out last night. It's more of the same, really, which is it's all been good, right? Uh, so. Dravet's is better known than the other one that they were fast tracked on, which I can't even pronounce. But this is their second on Epidiolex. It's for seizures, and they're focusing on rare pediatric forms of epilepsy, basically. So we'll see if the stock can hold these levels. It's been tough. I mean, I think since the last time we talked, it's done basically nothing, right?
right. And just had a spike in the pre-market here.
Right. I see
Uh,
it around 72.
Yeah, well, it actually traded higher than that. Actually got up to 73.40. Had another high at 73.94. So, I mean, it's not something you're tempted to fade, right, Alan? I mean, you still have bullish, prospects.
My long-term view here is bullish. They could always, we could walk in one morning, they get taken out by one of their partners. So, people that want to short the stock, they're playing with fire, I think, from that standpoint. And, the best way to figure out the market cap is to take about 19 and change and multiply it by the price. That'll give you an idea. It's a little bit complicated because a lot of the shares are in London, and then they've got these ADSs in the United States. And each one of the ADSs is worth 12 of the London shares. But if you convert it, we're at like $1.5 billion, close to it, right? So it's not an odd lot company, for investors. But, for any of these pharma companies that really want to make a statement, imagine like their partner Bayer, for instance, or Novartis, or, more likely a foreign company right now than a U.S. company. But that's the problem with it. But, it's I think we need to look for catalysts. They have the Sativex, finishing up in the clinical phase, and will go to the FDA. But when they actually start selling medicine is still a ways off. So it's going to be speculative.
Okay, what about pot here? Is it, what happened? Is it dead in the water? Will it ever recover?
Are you talking about the whole market?
No,
PHOT. I thought we're talking
Pot.
PHOT.
Got it. I thought we were
Sorry.
talking pot.
Grow Life.
That's Grow Life. That's one that just didn't grow, right? So it was a great story. It still could be a great story again. I think there's a lot of uncertainty. Unfortunately, since the last time we talked, they came out with the 10Q, and we didn't get a chance to talk about this, but uh, it was pretty atrocious. Their banks cut them off, and this is before they got suspended. And it's really weird. There's no real explanation for it, but they're just at the corporate level. All their retail stores, they have 7 retail stores, but they lost their primary, and this is like a national banker. So their banker said, see ya. Then they got another one. They said, see ya, apparently. So that was one thing that came out in the 10Q. There's this concept that's way too complex to be talking about on a Friday morning, but it's called derivative liability. And this happens to a lot of companies that have warrants and convertible debt. And then when the price goes up, it's just an accounting thing they implemented a few years ago. You have to kind of account for that on the balance sheet. So that you end up with these massive negative numbers when that happens. It'll reverse out now the prices come down. But kind of unsophisticated investors look at that and they go, wow, they lost $30 million. How'd they do that? It's really just the fact that they used equity and the stock went up, or an equity derivative is the right way to say it. So that's an issue. They've had some management departures, so and it's gray, and I'm learning these grays. It's just really tough. We've talked about some of them like Advanced Cannabis Solutions, CANN, and I know that they filed. It's called a Form 211, and they filed it. They had a market maker, and they've submitted it to FINRA, but you have to wait for FINRA. and FINRA's on FINRA time.
What are the stocks here? Obviously, the sector's been, in a little bit of trouble here over the last few months. Some of these stocks, do you think some of them might recover here, or some of them on the road to recovery? Which ones do
Well,
you think are going to be the first to lead the recovery is probably what
sure.
I'm asking.
Well, so first of all, there has been a big recovery, and not everybody listening probably has the same perspective as you guys do. But we started the year. We have the Benzinga index, and we started the year at 159, just to throw out the number, and it peaked in mid-March at 1010, and so that's
Wow.
like a great decade, right?
Yeah,
All in
exactly.
a quarter, and so we've pulled back. It's about 400 right now. It bottomed on I think May 21st at 367, I believe. I forgot the exact number, but the point is we've lifted off the lows, but the action's a lot more realistic now. I mean, we were like, there was one day early in the year with all that Colorado hullabaloo, and it was up 100% in one day. I mean, that's just
Unbelievable.
unheard of. But but to answer your question, there are a couple companies that are emerging from the ones that people have been following for a while as being winners, I think, and that would be certainly TerraTech, and I want to talk about that a little bit in a second. I want to tell you something really cool about that one. That's TRTC, and the other one I know that in the 420 investor community, very highly regarded, MSIG, and those two have had nice bounces off of pretty depressed levels, but not. It's kind of interesting to see not all the stocks are moving in parallel anymore. And I think investors are starting to discern. And the other thing I want to throw out for you guys, one of the reasons I'm really excited about our conference later this month in Denver, that's the Weed Stock Conference, is that I think that there's going to be a lot of new companies. This is something I've been talking about all year. It's just taking a little bit of time to play out. But we have these tickers out there that people have watched for the last year, 2 years, 3 years. And most of these have really done nothing as a business. And I'm talking about like MJNA. I'm talking about hemp. I'm talking about even Medbox, unfortunately. I'm talking about CBIS. These are like, the four tickers. Some of them have been around since '09. And I'm not saying that their stocks didn't go up necessarily, but the businesses just aren't delivering. They're not growing. They're not producing profits, and they've been around for a while. So now we're starting to see some what I think are very legitimate companies enter the space. And so, hopefully this is going to be one of the things that investors can discern and, stop focusing. I just found this other company this morning. It seems like a total scam. I found it yesterday, actually. Total scam. I mean, I have a list now. It's approaching 200 names in the sector. A lot of them are sub pennies and pinks. They just put out these press releases. There was one yesterday. The guy said, "We think the medical marijuana market's going to be really big, so we are seriously considering it." They put that out as a press release. So I don't know if
Just to
that's
try to get a pop off the whole pot.
yeah, it's
Wow.
ridiculous. So, the SEC continues to be pretty rampant. There was I think since we last spoke, I think they had already halted that fusion farm. We probably talked about it, but it reopened and it plunged. That's FSPM. But the market's been up since that FSPM halt. And that's a stock that's been around for a while. And I've been there. I've actually visited them in Denver in January and have followed them. It's a real company. That's not the question, but there may be some accounting issues there. It's kind of unclear, but this one doesn't seem like it was. I don't, a lot of people say the SEC's on a witch hunt. You can't say that with this one. There's something there, unfortunately. But there was another halt in a company called Fortitude, FRTD. But that's been it. And so hey, I think we've been 2 weeks without a real MJ company being, or maybe a little over 2 weeks now since a halt. Today's the 2 week anniversary. That I think that FRTD starts trading today. 2 weeks. So let's keep our fingers crossed. The market seems to have it didn't sell off on that FRTD. I think people realize that one might not be such a great example of the best we can be, and so maybe that's why the market's rallying. They feel like the SEC's really done being capricious. If it was, I don't know if it was, but
Didn't they put out like a like warning on the entire sector?
they did. They did. FINRA
Wow.
did it in August, and then they repeated it in January. The SEC actually did put out a warning for the whole sector. That is correct. And the warning is a legitimate warning, and I've written about it. I mean, I have no complaints with SEC cleaning up. There's still more cleanup that needs to happen. It's just how does it go? And the feedback I get from people, and I share it, is it's so frustrating. They are sending these people to jail basically by putting their stocks in the gray sheets without any way of getting back, even if they didn't do anything. So at least investors should be told, what is it that happened? I mean, they're letting these things start trading again on the grays, but if there's really a problem, we need to know what happened, what's the problem. And it's just unfortunately there's not really a system to address that right now. And I know a lot of people are outraged. I've seen some commentary out there, letters to Congress and stuff like that. I'm not going to get involved there, but I do think it would be very helpful if somehow the communication would come out regarding what exactly happened. And I think the SEC answer is there's an ongoing investigation or something like that. So we don't want to say anything, but it's just frustrating for investors. But enough about that. Let's talk about some good stuff. I told you I want to talk about TerraTech and not so much the company, but to me, this is one of the coolest things. Nevada right now is awarding licenses for medical marijuana. And that's probably one of the biggest opportunities in the country because it's going to be pretty much like legal. They have very wide reciprocity. So if you're a California resident with a card, you'll be able to go into Nevada to Las Vegas for the weekend and get marijuana. So, and a lot of people think it's going to go legal pretty fast. Long story short, they're holding these public hearings for Clark County. That's where Las Vegas is. They had these things live on the internet, and they'll finish them up today. This has been the last couple of days. And so TerraTech is one of two public companies. You actually got to see the presentation live. All 81 of these things are live on the internet. And really cool to see that. And I think that's one of the reasons why, if you look at the chart, TRTC, it's really soared in the last few days. Traded off a little bit yesterday. It was interesting. The presentation was done right before the market closed, maybe 15 minutes before. And the chairperson started asking the CEO of TerraTech questions about their stock. And it was hard to really tell where he was going with the question, but maybe some people thought that might be a negative that they're a public company. But he was really talking to them about the fact that they're a public company and they're doing this.
Is it so they look to benefit by having the stores to sell it?
Well, so here's the deal. I mean, there's I'm not going to even mention the ticker, but there's supposedly a small pink sheet stock that allegedly owns a grow. I'm not going to confirm that at all. But to the best of my knowledge, and this is the way the CEO of TerraTech, Derek Peterson, answered it, was there's nobody right now who's actually selling marijuana to people. This whole industry that we talk about, nobody actually is a marijuana company. TerraTech could become, at least, let's just say this, the first SEC filing marijuana company. That would resolve that other issue. And so, it's unclear. First, they have to win. They've applied for 2 locations out of 81 in the Clark County. And so if they win 1 or 2 of those, it's huge. But the question is, will they actually sell it? Derek Peterson, CEO, said yesterday that they're in the middle of what's called an S3 process with the SEC. That allows them to issue equity once this goes effective. He said yesterday that they received back comments on this S3. That's common, right? The SEC looks at it and gives you back review comments, and you address them, and then they either approve it or don't approve it. So he said they didn't ask a single question about marijuana. All the issues that came up were on other parts of the business, not this marijuana issue. So this could be huge. And, obviously there's a lot of focus on TerraTech right now, but if you see what's going on in Canada right now, where they have we've talked about that, the MMPR program is just getting started. You have publicly traded Tweed. You have this FITX we talk about a lot. That's an American company that's building and is awaiting inspection. But check out what's going on up there. We don't need to go through all these tickers, but there are all these public companies that actually grow marijuana or intend to grow marijuana. We don't have that yet in the United States, and this could be happening, and we could find out as early as today, actually, if TerraTech's license will be sent on to the state of Nevada for approval. That's the next hurdle. The Nevada has to accept it, but the county right now is holding these hearings.
So tell us about the Weed Stock Conference coming up. When is it? Who can participate, and what you're planning on doing at the conference?
Well, I'm going to be in Colorado, so I'm going to have fun, that's for sure. So the conference it starts on June 29th. That's a Sunday, and it runs through midday on July 1st. That's Tuesday. And so that Monday's really filled. People that buy tickets to the conference. You can buy a one-day admission if you're in the area out in Denver, but for the whole conference, uh, there'll be a lot of things on all 3 days, meals and activities, a lot of speakers, both companies and industry experts. There's going to be somebody really teaching people about the fundamentals of the industry. There's going to be some companies there that I would characterize. I'm not going to name them by name, but you can look on the site and see the names, but I don't want to give away. I think some of these companies could come public pretty soon, and I think this is kind of gets to the point I was making earlier. You're going to see some higher quality companies entering the space without all this penny stock garbage and baggage behind them. So, if there's going to be a lot of companies there, weedstockconference.com is the website. Information's being added every day. You guys love that FitX because it's in your neighborhood. They're going to be there. That company TerraTech I just mentioned is going to be there. I don't want to leave anybody out, but GW Pharma unfortunately is not going to be there. But a lot of
Really? How come? How come?
you know they're way beyond retail investors. I would say that's an institutional stock, right? So they go to conferences that the big brokers put on, actually.
Right.
So
Uh,
anyway,
I
but
wonder what
there's gonna
the.
be some other companies there that I think are neat, and I think everybody's gonna. I went to Denver in January, and it just totally changed my perspective. And I was already bullish, right? We already know that on the long-term fundamentals of the industry, and uh, and I walked away from there. It just really hit me, and I understood what was why, and I still understand why there's so much enthusiasm. And I know the market's kind of in a lull would be a nice way to say it. We're in a massive correction and hopefully bottoming, but my read is that the stocks, not so good. Right now, obviously a lot of people came into the market looking to get rich quick, and the market turned, and that soured a lot of people. Some people. But if you look at the long term, what's going on, if you pay attention to the House vote last week, if you pay attention to Dr. Oz is now on board, a lot of things going on. And we just launched this 420 funders. It's still a huge problem. You have all these companies trying to raise capital. The banks aren't there for them. The investment banks aren't there for them. And we now have a platform where we can connect. And unfortunately, the way the laws are structured, you have to be kind of wealthy to invest in these companies. You have to have an income of $200,000 a year or more, or $1 million in liquid. I think it's liquid assets. But we're going to be able to connect these private investors and institutional investors that are looking to invest in the sector with these private companies. And, my goal is to get these private companies funded and get them into the public market so that everybody can participate.
Is Are any of institutional investors coming to the conference?
There will be some there. I'm trying to think. And by the way, Weed Maps, the founder of Weed Maps is going to be there. I mean, he's huge. He's giving a speech. Uh, I should have had the whole agenda ready, but it's gonna people that go there will learn a lot, and they might walk away with some good investment ideas also. Institutions will be there. ArcView's making a presentation. I know that. The National Cannabis Industry Association, I'm a member of that. That's industry group to support the industry. They'll be making a speech. I don't think we have any institutional investors presenting, but I know they'll be in attendance. And a lot of people are, the institutions are definitely interested in the market. The public space doesn't exactly work for them fully because of the valuations, but the private market certainly works for them. And that's, I already have a lot of interest on 420 funders. I think that's going to be a big part, the institutional investors that are looking for new ideas.
So, what do you think is going to kickstart the industry? Do you think it's going to be the SEC and FINRA laying off a little bit, or do you think it's going to be more states approving making it legal?
So, okay, so the SEC, I think people are already warming up to, hey, let's admit it, there are some problems. If as long as the SEC is getting rid of the problems, that's a good thing. If they're just being capricious, that's a bad thing. And I think that people are starting to realize that maybe they're not so capricious. They already, if they were, they did what they wanted to do. If that's the case, right? They cooled off the market. So, all right, we're going to have to deal with that. And a lot of unscrupulous companies are not going to be able to get away with things. Well, we don't care about that. All we care about is if you can find some good companies, can you make some money? So to answer your question, if with the SEC less of an issue, you have Washington State kicking in. next month in July. You have this whole Nevada rollout, and it's these aren't going to open for business tomorrow or anything, but the whole idea that we're getting closer and closer to being able to fly into Las Vegas and buy marijuana for a lot of people that have medical cards across the country. Uh, and then the idea that that could go legal. This whole Canada rollout's been a little bit slower because of a technical glitch in their court system, keeping the old system alive, but we should see continued progress there. Uh, Massachusetts has a medical dispensary program, and they haven't opened their doors yet, but the licenses have been awarded and they're under construction. The state of Florida has a vote in November, national election. 60% on this referendum are required to get medical marijuana, but that is a huge, huge move for the market. That's a conservative state. And I polled my own parents. They're in their 70s, and they're pretty conservative. They would never vote for legal marijuana, I don't think. I don't think they would, but they said they would definitely vote for medical marijuana. And I'm hoping that that's the way. I think that's the average person in Florida, right? Like 70 or something. I don't want to
Yeah.
insult our Florida people, but I think they'll vote. I mean, the early read is that they will. The grassroots people there, no pun intended, have made a huge effort to get the education out. If you spend just a little bit of time, you'll hear all these podcasts on the internet out of Florida on the radio stations. You can read in the local Florida papers. There's a groundswell of support for this. They already passed a first step, which is it's very limited, but they're going to allow non-THC marijuana to be sold in certain circumstances. That's a baby step. And by the way, since the last time we talked, Minnesota approved a program, and these programs aren't always so great right at the start, but it's all a move in the right direction.
Not
So
not THC marijuana?
yeah, you can have very low THC or almost no THC. It's hemp derived basically. It's uh,
For medical reasons.
so we're talking about getting the CBD out. That's what we're
Okay.
talking about.
All right. We've had Alan Brochstein on here of the Cannabis Financial Investor and talking about the industry, the Weed Stock Conference coming up. One last question here to end it is, you know, what is like going to be like the highlight of the conference? If people are planning on coming out there, what do you think is something they should absolutely catch?
Yeah, that's a great question. I could tell you getting to dunk me might be it, but I don't think that's the right
Okay.
answer,
Okay.
supposedly. The highlight, if I had to say the highlight, it's not going to be a single presentation, but it's going to be that you're going to see some companies out there that you're not familiar with, that you could be familiar with, but you're just not yet. And you're going to hear from them what's really going on. There's a big disconnect. I hope you guys just picked up on that. The stocks have really been in a big pullback, but the whole industry's been advancing. There's no problem with the industry. And I think the one big takeaway people walk away with was like, I don't know that I can go buy hemp or MJNA, but my God, I know I'm going to find some companies, and this is a great industry, and hopefully
Okay.
some of the companies there will be those ones.
Okay. Thank you, Alan. We'll talk to you again soon.
Okay, bye guys.